We were soldiers doing what we were instructed to do.
This is Bruce Jessen, a former military psychologist who became a CIA contractor, and his colleague, James Mitchell.
Any expertise in the art of interview? My God, I'm a clinical psychologist. Interviews are what we do.
They've been described as the architects of the extremely harsh interrogation program used at secret CIA prisons after 9/11.
Jim and I went into a cubicle, sat down he sat down at the typewriter, and together we wrote out
and typed up
the list that I've seen in the documents here that was submitted.
They're now defendants in a case brought by some of the men tortured in those prisons. Suleiman Salim, Mohammed Ben Soud, and Obaidullah, the nephew of Gul Rahman, who died in custody. This is the first time that Mitchell and Jessen are facing lawyers for former detainees. We exclusively obtained video depositions from the case, which is scheduled for trial in September. Watch throughout as Mitchell and Jessen attempt to defend themselves, both rhetorically and emotionally.
If I want to get information from you, Dor, I don't want to slap you. I don't want to wall you. I don't want to waterboard you, even if you're my enemy.
Jessen, who's never spoken publicly about his role, at times appears to wrestle with what happened, whereas Mitchell, who wrote a book about his experiences, comes off as more polished and assertive.
I disagree with the suggestion that we were architects, because we weren't breaking new ground, in the sense that that architects do.
Mitchell and Jessen didn't directly interrogate the two surviving men who brought this case, but the methods they proposed were used on them and at least 37 other men. A fascinating aspect of these videos is how their accounts of enhanced interrogation dramatically differ from what the detainees describe.
I'm a pretty good judge of what it's like to be walled. And
I remember also them putting tying a cloth around my neck, and then they are punching me on the wall.
Oh, it's discombobulating. It's not painful. My guess would be some of the folks sitting here have been walled. It stirs up your inner ears, and it's like being on one of those whirly gigs or something. Mm-hmm. You move around quite a bit, it's in fact, if it's painful, you're doing it wrong.
There's a tether anchored to the ceiling in the center of the detention cell. The detainee has handcuffs, and they're attached to the tether in a way that they can't lie down or rest against the wall. They're monitored to make sure they don't get edema if they hang on the cuffs too much.
Holding so-called stress positions for hours was another technique used on detainees.
I remember being tied on the wall, handicapped on the wall. I couldn't go up or come down.
This is Jose Rodriguez, former head of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center.
On 60 Minutes, where you analogized the stress positions to working out in a gym.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you think that's a good analogy to what the kind of discomfort that the stress positions cause?
I can only imagine.
Mm-hmm. So you don't know?
I don't know.
I can't describe how painful it was.
Do you presently experience the pain?
Sasa hivi unasikia maumivu. Yes.
Can you describe for me the pain that you feel presently?
Huh? Maybe I need to tie you here so that for 1 hour so you can feel the pain, if you want to know the pain.
We take a break. We can take a break.
In this next section, we hear Mitchell talk in almost casual terms about simulated drowning, which the U.S. had long considered torture. The plaintiffs in this case were not subjected to this technique, but other detainees were.
I mean, you thought waterboarding was a bad thing, was a painful thing, right?
No, I thought it could be done safely. I thought he would be uncomfortable. It sucks,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it's painful.
Well, I saw an
But
interview.
it's distressing.
I saw an interview with you where you said it would, as between somebody breaking their leg and somebody being waterboarded, most people would choose to have their leg broken. Do you remember saying that in an interview?
No.
They probably would prefer you break their legs because it's less distressing, oddly enough.
Okay. Now, you're using the word painful. I'm using the word distressing.
Okay.
Two things are not synonymous in my
Okay.
mind.
The pressure is designed to be used in a way that it doesn't harm, but it makes someone uncomfortable. They're more irritating than painful.
This entire case really gets to the question of personal responsibility within a larger system. If you feel the government is pressing you to cross boundaries, to what extent should you resist?
We also didn't want to use waterboarding.
We ended up in a video conference with Jose Rodriguez and a bunch of folks. And prior to that, Bruce and I had said, we're not going to continue doing this. And what they said was, well, you guys have lost your spine.
They kept telling me every day a nuclear bomb was going to be exploded in the United States, and that because I told them to stop, I'd lost my nerve, and it was going to be my fault if I didn't continue.
I think the word that was actually used is that you guys are pussies. There's going to be another attack in America, and the blood of dead civilians are going to be on your hands. If you won't follow through with this, then we're going to send somebody out there who will.
Because we worked for them and they wanted it continued.
Justice Department lawyers approved the techniques. Based in part on what Mitchell and Jessen told them, they concluded that the techniques would cause no lasting harm. And by their reasoning, that meant they wouldn't amount to torture.
Do you think that the enhanced interrogation techniques could result in long-term harm?
No.
Why is that?
It never did.
I don't know that for a fact. It's one of those things that you can establish. If they're out there and that happened, then, show me the data.
I think none of the men that I was involved with while I was involved with them, experienced anything that would have led to that. I'm very convinced of that.
Have you suffered any psychological injuries as a result of your captivity in Cobalt?
طبعا. Of course.
What are they?
ما هم
الكوابيس.
nightmares.
Can you tell me about these nightmares?
الكوابيس تأتيني في
It comes to me during my sleep, and as if I'm still imprisoned in that horrible place and still shackled.
In addition to recurring nightmares, Mr. Bensoud describes feelings of anxiety, fear, and worry. Salim also describes ongoing effects. When asked about his feelings of isolation, he responds,
I don't feel like being with people. I like being by myself, but I don't like walking around to see people. I feel like I'm so weak and I can't do anything.
Mitchell and Jessen continued working with the CIA for many years. They set up a contracting company, and ultimately they ran many aspects of the CIA's interrogation program. For that work, their company received $81 million. In the end, whether or not Mitchell and Jessen or the former detainees prevail in this case, it's already had a profound effect. At a time when the world still confronts the threat of terrorism, we now know much more about a recent episode in U.S. history.